Hello, hello, and welcome back for another episode of You Are the Masterpiece, where we are constantly covering up and saying that, hey, we are all work in progress and the masterpiece at the same time. You do not have to be perfect as long as you are taking the effort. And if this is the first time you are tuning into this episode or this series, my name is Irina Portnova, and I'm a manifestation star because I manifested consciously a lot of great things in my life. And I'm here to teach everybody how to do it effortlessly and with the joy. And I'm here today with my guest, Cristalia Marie. Hello, Cristalia, and welcome to this beautiful stage. And tell a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in this world.
Hi, Irina. Thank you for having me. I'm an author and speaker, and I channel these images that you see in the background that are used for helping you to heal your body, mind, and spirit. And I also help people go deeper with their beliefs and emotions and all of that. I'm also a author of multiple books on the energy tune-ups and so on, as well as co-author in the Chicken Soup for the Soul, Kindness Matters book, and multiple other books that I've been involved with Deepak Chopra and other people as well, where I've co authored. So that's a little bit
Mhm.
about me.
That's beautiful. And I love the topic of today. Healing starts at the root. Let's just dive in into this because a lot of people are still learning about the energy, how it works, and what does it mean to heal from the root.
Okay. So for me, healing from the at the root cause is to get to the underlying deep root beliefs and emotions that are holding us back. And so often we do affirmations, we do all these things, and we haven't really touched what I call the root cause, the root belief, the root emotion. And when we do, we can see miracles happen once we're able to change that belief, change that emotion, or release that emotion, I should say, and move forward. So
Mhm.
that's really what I mean by starting at the root.
Mhm. Can you please share your story? Because I know your story is phenomenal. Like, how did you discover that everything starts from our beliefs?
Well, it's interesting. I studied the law of attraction and did a lot of stuff and did all these affirmations in the mirror, did 13 years of talk therapy working on my self esteem issues and everything. And I went to this class that I was going to become one of her trainers and or practitioners, I should say. And she said in the class, "Has anybody actually healed something they feel really strongly that they've healed?" And I raised my hand. And she had me come up to the front of the room and said, "So what is it?" And I said, "Well, I believe that I've really healed my self love issues and so on." And she said, "Well, let's muscle check that." So I put my arm out and she did the muscle. She said, "So you say, I love myself totally." And I did. And my arm fell straight down. And we did some further muscle checking until we found that my belief was that God would punish me if I loved myself. And
Mm.
it was something I had picked up as a child in my religious upbringing in the Catholic Church. And I'm not saying the Catholic Church taught me that, but it's something I took on based on whatever one of the nuns said, my parents said, who knows,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes.
And so once I changed that by building from the root a bridge forward, everything changed in my life. I mean, it was dramatic changes at that point. And
Mhm.
I've seen so many times I've gotten where I've done work thinking I got to the root, and finally I get to the root and I'm like, "Oh my god, a miracle just happened."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. I love what you shared. And so what happens next? Like once you realize there is still healing to do, what exactly did you do to heal yourself?
Well, I just literally did affirmations call it by bridging them. So what
Mhm.
I mean by bridging is I did I desire God's love when I love myself. I deserve God's love when I love myself. God loves me when I love myself. Then I
Mm-hmm.
desire to love myself. I deserve to love myself, and so on, and built on that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing that work with her before my work came into the world, um, I think I had like 74 affirmations, and I was doing those twice a day in front
Mm-hmm.
of a mirror for 21 days and then writing them in red ink once a day. And
Mm.
so that was a lot. And so part of my work, I asked Spirit to guide me as to how there were faster ways to do the same thing. So,
That's
so
beautiful.
yeah.
And you know what comes to me as you are sharing? Why did you use the red ink? Because I heard that when we write something, it's good to use the blue ink. Can you share a little bit about that?
I wish I could, but I don't even remember why she insisted we do it
Mm-hmm.
in red ink, but we were supposed to write them in red ink.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. So yeah, these it was a lot of like inner work that you had to do,
Right,
and obviously we are doing it with the affirmations, with writing, with reprogramming ourselves, because everything happens through the repetition. The more we
right,
repeat, right, we are training our brain muscle to the new reality, and that's exactly how things are happening. Because for the most of the time we are just 95% just acting on the autopilot. And it's important, if we want to change something in our life, right, we
right,
want to like really be conscious what exactly we are calling in into our life, and start using different techniques in order to reprogram our brain.
right, right.
That mm-hmm,
Yeah, one of the other things I like to do is journal as well. So I like to
mm-hmm,
journal and just ask Spirit to guide me as to what might be the block or what might be the root belief that I haven't addressed. And it's amazing when you really get calm and just I auto write when I do my journals. And it's
mm-hmm.
amazing. You come back and read it and you're like, I wrote that? Where'd that come from?
Yes, and I see Diane. Hi, Diane. Thanks so much for joining. She wrote, "Spirit guidance is beautiful. Red ink could be symbol of the root chakra." Thanks so much for that
Yeah,
input. Yeah, interesting.
right. Could very well
Awesome
be.
sauce.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. So, Cristalia, let's talk a little bit about these signs that you have on the background, because I remember the first time I met you, I was like really fascinating. I am all about, just mystery, and like how do we connect to the universe. And I love like all these things that are not that obvious. And I love to connect with people who have that deep connection with the guidance. Can you share a little bit more about what are these symbols and how did you come to them?
Well, it's a fun story because when I first started looking at energy work at all, one of the first things I was introduced to was Reiki, and it had these symbols in there. And one of the symbols was how to transmit energy to at a distance. And I'm like, well, I can just intend that. I don't need a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So then a few years later, I was still in the corporate world and I was flying across country, and somebody had given me this book and it had these symbols in it. And every time I would look at one, I would start sobbing. Now I was sitting in first class and my ego got, oh, I can't do this. People will see me crying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I'd put the book away and then I'd be like, it can't be those symbols. There's something else going on. Every time I would open the book, I'd be crying. So I ended up studying with her and became one of her practitioners, which is the one I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up finding a lump the size of a golf ball in one of my breasts. And I did that work. I did a lot of other work. I was living in Sedona at the time and I went to healers and everything, and nothing was working. And I was bound and determined I was going to heal this. I didn't need a medical person. So I was talking to a medical intuitive one day, and she said to me, "You need to draw those images floating in your aura." And I remember rolling my eyes and saying, "Yeah, right, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, when I went into meditation, I downloaded and sketched 65 different images. Now, I didn't know what any of them were for, but over the next week or so, I was guided to actually use that one looks like a star there. Oh, it's on that side. Looks like a star. And that one is love and trust. And it was all about trusting what was about to happen.
Mm,
And a couple of weeks in, I ended up getting a couple other symbols and was guided on a process. And breast is all about self nurturing. So I did some stuff about why I didn't feel worthy of being nourished and nourishing myself and so on. And in a 20-minute process with that, with the symbol for removing a lump and this love and trust symbol, and one other one for compassion and loving yourself. Anyway, 20 minutes and the lump was gone and it's never come
wow.
back. That was in 2003. So that gives you some idea how powerful it is. But the thing is, if I hadn't gotten to that root belief, it
Mm-hmm.
it would have manifested in some other way at some point.
I love what you shared because I just wanted to make the connection, right? Because you did not want to believe what the doctors were saying to you, right? You really stand on your beliefs that it's possible without the medical intervention, and you were just committed to seek that solution and attract that answer for yourself. And that's exactly like a great example for everybody who is listening to us. Maybe some things, like what I notice, people tend to deny something they can't explain. And my invitation, by listening to what we have this conversation about, just like really stay open and see where it takes you.
Right.
Because a lot of times we are denying something until we are just kind of, like put into the corner, and we do not have another option when something, like just comes up as the medical diagnosis, or something happens with us in terms of relationships or other financial area in our life. Then we are ready to listen to something different. But
Right.
before that, like, the point is, why don't we start working on ourselves as we can, and just actually start creating our reality before some major, thing really hits in our life, and just,
Right.
like hitting the brick, right? So
Right.
the idea is we all can consciously start creating our life. Nobody says that it's going to be just, like word for word, but it's going to be actually the reflections of our thoughts, of our beliefs, and our actions. And Diane wrote, totally understand the tearing release. I remember those days you were harvesting your innate intelligence. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Diane, for sharing. So let's continue the conversation, Cristala. Like, truly, what made you feel believe? I guess it's like inner knowing, right? So the idea is when we learn to trust ourselves more, and that's exactly when we are connecting more to our intuition. We know that there is that knowing because we already have the answers inside of us. And once we start really connecting with that, okay, I want to trust myself. I might not know exactly the way how I'm going to achieve it, but still I trust that it's possible for me.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what's really important is for us to tune into that trust our innate abilities. And too often we give up our power to quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote authority figures. And for me, as a kid, even I was hit in the chest by my bicycle handlebar. And my mother finally took me to the doctor. I complained so many days. And he said it was bruised and it would always hurt when when it was cold or damp outside. And I lived in Michigan. It was cold and damp all the time. And one day I as an adult, I realized that I was still carrying that pain in my chest. And that was probably one of my awakenings to learn to tune into yourself and not just let that outer world. It's not that you don't want to hear them, but you don't want to give them your power. You want to
Mm-hmm.
trust your own inner power and listen to that inner voice. And I literally did a hypnosis session and stopped believing that I was going to hurt there. And then it went away.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably part of what put me on the journey. But too often we give up our power to that quote unquote
Mhm.
authority figure. And
Mhm.
we have lots of innate intuition and gut instincts that we just ignore too often. And I find that when I listen to that gut intuition, amazing miracles happen.
Yes, I love what you share. And again, it's all about just, like really understand that we can help ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And obviously, with the right guidance, we can actually have anything what we desire. And I just love how you share. It's like giving our power away. So all the time, I remind people that it's never the lack of the resources in our universe, it's the lack of our awareness. Just because we do not know something, it does not mean it's not existing. So the idea is we want to connect with that inner knowing and inner belief that everything is possible, because if there is a problem, there is always a solution.
Right,
And it's all about us not to sit in the circumstances, and do not use all the time our logical mind that always goes to the past experiences and start telling and judging and saying, hey, like it's not possible, look what the doctor is telling you, look what that person is telling you, right? So
right,
we always rely on the outside opinion, on outside help, rather than relying on our own knowing.
right,
And what we want to actually uh, give the message to everybody who is tuning in to understand, like really start asking these questions to yourself, like do I believe in myself? Do I believe whatever I have, that inner knowing, right? And again, we
mhm,
all have the intuition, and intuition is our inner GPS, and it's all about working with that and really connecting with that so we can receive the right guidance. And even sometimes, right, sometimes things can not show up the way that we want. Even sometimes, like, okay, let me just follow my intuition, and it doesn't mean that right away you are hitting that beautiful light of sunshine, right?
right,
Sometimes you still go through the period of, like humps before you actually see that the result. But the idea is we learn to trust the process, and
right.
we know that if our intuition is telling us to go to do something, we just follow that path and know that the outcome is going to be amazing.
Right. Yeah, I had an interesting experience where I was being introduced to this guy and to do some business with him. And I had multiple people that I didn't even know that knew that I was going to get involved with him that contacted me and said, "Don't do any business with him. He's horrible. He'll do this to you and he'll do that to you and everything." But my intuition told me I should do this business with him. So I have a little process I use sometimes I want to share with your audience, and that is I then, if I really am getting mixed messages and I think I know what my intuition is, I have this process I use to get clearer. So I pick something I have no control over and I say, okay, if this happens, I know I'm supposed to move forward. And if this happens, I know I'm not supposed to move forward. So in my situation, in this particular one, I said I hadn't seen any butterflies for a while. I go out for morning walks and I said, "So if I'm supposed to work with him, show me a butterfly tomorrow on my morning walk. And if I'm not, then don't show me a butterfly." So I find myself looking for butterflies. I'm like, "No, you can't do that, Cristalia." So I sit down to meditate and I'm sitting on this park bench meditating, and I hear, "Open your eyes." And I open my eyes, and there's a monarch butterfly like this far away from the tip of my nose. I'm like, how could you ignore that message, right?
Mm.
So I did business with him. It didn't work out. He didn't cheat me. He didn't do any of the things that people said. It didn't work out. But I learned so much from that person that it was well worth it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'd have listened to those other people, I wouldn't have gotten any of those lessons. So sometimes it's not what you expect the results to be, but you look for the good in everything as well. I think that's so
Mm-hmm.
important to look for the good because there is even good in what seems to be bad. Like it didn't work out the way I wanted it, but Yeah, there was some
Right.
real good stuff in there.
And I love, Cristalia, that you're sharing, like look for the signs, because the universe always gives us the signs and it's up to us to really notice them, right? And
Right.
once you understand how it all works, and like even I was thinking about like what you said, just show me the butterfly. Sometimes it's not even the physical butterfly. You can scroll through the social media and all of a sudden you see
Oh
that,
yeah.
like post about the butterfly, right?
Right.
So the idea is you tune in and learn like all these different things that you can actually receive what you desire, or you can even hear somebody talking about butterfly, right?
Right. Right.
And I love what you shared about lessons, right? So again, the situation, what it is, it's not good or bad until we put the meaning to that. So if something did not play out the way we desire, we always thanks for the lessons, because obviously we are learning something, and that experience is given to us for the reason. Maybe we meant to become more stronger, we meant to become more resilient, and we meant to like really just follow the path regardless.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, too often we ignore the messages. And I will admit that I have trouble interpreting signs. That's why I suggest what the sign might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some people say just look for the sign. I'm like, well, I'm I don't always get that to interpret that way. So that's why I tell spirit what the signs are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll do it as somebody that I haven't spoken to in ages. Oh, if they call me before midnight tonight, then I'll know. And if they don't, then I don't. So,
Yeah, I love what Diane sharing. She says that I have had butterflies arrive to even land on my hand. Oh my God, that's beautiful. My dad used to call me a little butterfly because my ideas, innate intelligence flowed in with ease ever since childhood. I love what Diane shared. Look at that. Like,
yeah,
you can't make up these things. Like the
right.
universe brings people into the right place, right? Like,
Yep.
who knew that we are going to talk about butterflies? And Diane is actually had the experience with that. Thanks so much, love, for sharing. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. But Cristalia, let's talk a little bit about, okay, if the people never really did any kind of healing work in terms of, like looking for the main root causes of their beliefs, what is a good place to start?
I think a good place to start is first, of course, recognizing that it's important to get to those root beliefs. The other thing is, I think, journaling, and or they can start working with someone like me that has symbols and work that specifically helps to get you to those root causes really quickly. I had one client as an example that she was we were doing a weight loss class, and she lost, I think it was 5 pant sizes, and
Mm,
no weight. The weight didn't go, she didn't drop a pound. And we got into, well, what could the underlying belief be? And I realized she had a block in even getting to that. So I asked Spirit for a new symbol, and we got one for removing blocks. She sat down and she documented in a journal over the next week over 6 pages of underlying root beliefs that she had about herself. And then she lost the weight as well. So basically, the
mhm,
weight was shifting to other parts of her body that were all parts of the reason she had all that weight on her body.
mm. That's
And
incredible.
it,
And
it
look what,
really is.
mhm,
Go ahead. I was going to say, so that's why everybody has to kind of find their own process, but journaling really is a good way. But you want to
mhm.
be clear and you want to ask the right questions and then just sit quietly and listen for the answers. Don't try to make up the answers.
And the most important thing, trust what you start writing, right? Because
Yes,
sometimes it's easy just to say, am I making this up or it's really coming through me? But again, it's all about just, like start and see where it's going to take you.
right.
And I love that Diane says it was not a butterfly today. I was guided to click on this link. I just love it that. Thanks so much. We appreciate you joining us and tuning
Mhm.
in and
Yeah.
bringing your beautiful energy. Like again, the universe miraculously connect people together.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of it.
right?
Yeah, so awesome. Okay, so journaling is fun. Okay, what are the ways that people, like a lot of times people live in denial. Like you can start talking and they say there is nothing wrong with me. I'm living my life. Everything is good. And I believe as long as we are breathing, there is always work to be done, right? Sometimes it's on a deeper way, sometimes it's on a more surface way, but there is always something that we want to grow and evolve and improve in ourselves to become a next version of ourselves. Can you please add to that?
Well, I totally agree with you. And I tend to think that if we don't do those kinds of things, eventually it actually ends up manifesting somewhere physically within our body or our world, at least. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's really important to continue to grow. And it's all about experiencing life anyway. To me, it's boring if you're not experiencing life and looking at the negative things that are happening and how can I move away or above that and grow
Mm-hmm.
and do something new in my life, something better for me and the world, maybe, depending. But see, I think everybody, if you heal yourself, you actually do make a difference. You raise the vibration of the people around you.
Yes, totally. So I think we all have something to work on, right? No matter, because as we are living the life, it's always something is shifting, something
Right.
is changing, and our beliefs constantly changing because they are different than 10 years ago, right? They are different when we were teenagers. And the idea is that we can always look into our life and just, ponder what area of my life I feel that I can improve at this moment, and start with, like look at your results, right? Because the results is actually connected to our thinking and our belief system. And
Right.
then say, ask yourself, what beliefs do I carry in order for me to produce these results in that area of my life? I
Right.
think it's a good way also to start, like really be curious, right? Because the more curious we become, the more we are asking these questions. The
Mhm.
quality of questions that we are asking determine the quality of the answers that we are receiving.
Right. Absolutely. And, it's not just about physical healing. I think I tend to focus more on that, but even just manifesting more money and more people and more love in our
Mhm,
lives. When we're closed down, we tend, with our beliefs and so on, to push that stuff away. And we can
mhm,
manifest much greater things in our lives when we're open to learning and changing our beliefs and looking deeper. What is that root belief? Do I have a deeper root belief about X, whatever that is, in that's going on
mhm,
in our lives? Um, yeah, and we can, most people tend to hide.
mhm.
To be really honest,
Absolutely.
they do. They hide and pretend that they've got everything under control, and they don't at all.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I just wanted to add that we are actually having more control of the things that we are imagining.
Mhm.
And it's great to start working on yourself, because once we start working on ourselves, we actually see how that work actually builds in all areas of our life, and how we become more fulfilled in our life and more joyful and more happy. And Cristalla, tell a couple of words. How can people connect with you?
Well, probably the most fun way is to go to energytuneup.com and claim my free gift that's all about boosting and having more energy. And it also helps you with some of the beliefs and learning a little more about how you can change some of those beliefs. So it's an audio program along with, I think, like a little ebook, and it includes
Mhm.
it includes some of the symbols. So you get some boundless energy and
That's
and
beautiful.
a chance to experience some of the work.
Yes, we all want more energy. That's for sure. Thank you so much for coming today, sharing everything what you shared. Diane, kudos to you. Thanks so much for tuning in and spending this time with us, sending lots of love and light. And everybody, see you on the next episode. Bye.